In this video, we are going to have a look at the first APS-C mirrorless camera from Nikon, the Nikon Z50. Kia ora, good morning everyone, Richard Wong here. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to have a look at the first APS-C mirrorless camera from Nikon, which is the Nikon Z50. I have some really mixed feeling about this camera, and after using it for about a week, I think there's something that I was really wrong about this camera. So I want to talk about this in this video. But before that, I want to just go through and talk about the performance of this camera first. First, let's talk about the autofocus of this camera. The Nikon Z50 has a hybrid autofocus system, so it's using both contrast detection and also phase detection. It has 209 autofocus points, and it also supports features like phase detection, eye detection. So overall, I think the autofocus speed, I probably wouldn't call it like lightning fast, but it is very reliable and very accurate. And that is the same no matter I'm just shooting photo in single autofocus point mode or continuous autofocus mode, both when taking photo and video. If you are currently a Nikon DSLR user and thinking of switching to a mirrorless camera like this Z50, one of the biggest advantages is that the autofocus, you can put your autofocus point pretty much anywhere inside the frame, almost all the way to the edge with a mirrorless camera like this Z50. While with most of the DSLR camera, the autofocus point are mostly like near the center of the frame. So with a camera like this Z50, you just have a lot more flexibility, and also with features like the eye detection and face detection, both work pretty well with the Z50. That just make it a lot easier when you are taking photos. And in terms of image quality, the Z50 using a 20.9 megapixel APS-C sensor. So this is probably not the highest resolution sensor in the market right now. Actually, I think this is probably one of the lowest resolution APS-C mirrorless camera in the market. So does it mean this is a disadvantage for the Z50? Does it mean that there's not enough resolution for this camera? I guess it really depends on what you want. I know for some people they really want very high resolution. If you are one of the people that want really high resolution, then the Z50 probably is not the best camera for you. But if you ask me, I think 20.9 megapixel is definitely more than enough. These days, one of the camera I use to shoot weddings is the Nikon DF, which is only 16 megapixel, and I never felt like I don't have enough resolution. And none of my client has actually complained to me saying that my camera or the photo I took doesn't have enough resolution. For me, I definitely care more about the quality of the pixel rather than the quantity of the pixel. So let's have a look at the image quality when we are going through different ISO value. This is a set of sample photo I shot starting from the base ISO, which is ISO 100. So I keep increase the ISO, and as you can see, the image quality still remain very good all the way up to ISO 6400. When we reach ISO 12800, we're starting to see a bit of noise, especially in the shadow area. The overall image quality is still remain pretty good, and if you zoom in and look at the grip of the camera, you can still see the texture on the grip very clearly. From ISO 25600 onwards, the image quality is starting to drop quite quickly. If I'm using this camera to take some personal everyday photo, I think the highest ISO I would go normally would be ISO 51200. The extended ISO 102,000 and 204,000, I think this two ISO value is really for emergency use. You can probably see that the image quality become really not so good once the ISO reach the 6-digit figure. So while the Z50's high ISO performance is not as good as the full-frame Nikon Z6, overall I think it's actually not too bad for an APS-C sensor camera. And next, let's have a look at how well the raw file respond to when I try to push it during the post-processing. So this is a photo that I shot using a normal exposure, and then these are the photo I shot at 1 stop, 2 stop, 3 stop, 4 stop, 5 and 6 stop underexposed. For the photo that I underexposed by 6 stop, you really don't see too much detail anymore in this photo. Now let me bring those photos into Lightroom and try to push them back to the normal exposed value. And this is the photo that was originally 1 stop underexposed, and this is the 2 stop underexposed photo, and this is the 3 stop underexposed photo, and this is the 4 stop underexposed photo. The image quality still look pretty decent after I push it by 4 stop in post-processing. And then this is the photo that I originally underexposed by 5 stop. And this is the photo that I originally underexposed by 6 stop, and then I push 6 stops in post-processing. And I think the result actually looked pretty nice. It's pretty impressive how I can push it by 6 stops, and the result is actually still quite usable. Of course, it's very unlikely that someone would need to recover by 6 stops in post-processing, but this test is just to see how good the raw file is in case you need to do some more extensive processing during editing. The Nikon Z50 can capture 4K video up to 30 frames per second and using the full width of this APS-C sensor. So let's have a look at the video quality that I capture at different ISO. From base ISO all the way up to ISO 6400, the video file, the image quality is still very good and very clean. And when I go up to ISO 12800, then I start to see quite a bit of noise, especially in this shadow area. At ISO 25600, definitely a lot more noise, and also the color and contrast has both dropped quite a bit. And this is the maximum ISO that the Z50 can go up to when you are shooting video. But I feel that Nikon can actually push for another stop when capturing 4K video. So if they allow us to go up to ISO 51200, the video quality probably would not be great, but I think it's probably still usable. But I guess Nikon just been a little bit more conservative, so they only allow you to go up to 25600 ISO when you are capturing video. Overall, I think the Z50 is a pretty decent video camera, especially it also has a flip down screen, which is great for doing vlogging. The only downside seems to be that when you are shooting 4K video, there is a bit of lag between what you see from the viewfinder compared to the actual image. This is especially noticeable when you are panning your camera quickly. And I want to quickly talk about this 18-50 kit lens that comes with the Nikon Z50, because this is one of the only 2 currently available lenses that is specially designed for the APS-C mirrorless camera. The build quality of this lens is definitely pretty plastic, and if you take it off from the camera, you can see that the rear mount is also made of plastic, and hold it is also pretty light as well, so it has a collapsible design. Personally, I quite like it because it allows the camera to be a lot more compact when you're not using it, and when you want to take photo or video, you do have to rotate the front down a little bit, so you extend the front element, then you can start taking photo. In terms of the image quality, if you look at the center, the image quality is actually pretty decent. Even at the maximum aperture, the image is already pretty sharp. If you look at the edges, the image quality is a little bit soft, usable but a little bit soft. So if you want it to be sharper, you do have to stop down by about a stop or a stop and a half, then the edges become a lot sharper. Lens flare is reasonably well controlled, so even when I'm shooting into the sun, the amount of lens flare I see is still pretty minimal. And I also don't really see too much chromatic aberration from all the photo I shot with this lens. Even when I was taking some high contrast photo at the maximum aperture, the amount of color fringing is still very minimal. Overall, while the lens definitely feel quite plastic, but I think it is a very good match with the Nikon Z50, because with it mounted on the camera, you can see that this is a very small package. You can put it into any bag, even a very small bag, and you can carry it around very easily. And while the kit lens feel quite plastic, it is a completely different story when it comes to the body of the Nikon Z50. Pick up the camera and you will be amazed by how comfortable and also how solid the camera feels when you are holding it in your hand. And the overall layout and design of this camera is very similar to the Nikon Z6. It still has the front and rear dial on the camera, which is quite surprising. And if you look at the top, it still has the ISO button and also the exposure compensation button, also with the record button next to it. I'm actually pretty surprised that Nikon didn't really dumb down the design and handling of this camera much at all, compared with my Nikon Z6. And I pretty much can configure the Nikon Z50 to handle almost exactly the same way as the Nikon Z6. I use the front dial, I use the rear dial, and if I use any of the Z lens, I can also configure this ring on the lens. I configure it to do the exposure compensations. And I also set up back button focus by configuring it to the AEL button at the back of the camera. With the camera configured like this, I can take photo pretty much exactly the same way, just as if I was shooting with a professional Nikon DSLR or using a Nikon Z6 or Nikon Z7. But having said that, I think the Nikon Z50 is not really primarily designed for people like me who using a lot of the professional Nikon DSLR. It is really more designed for the consumer market, for people who are just starting to learn about photography, people that want to get some better image quality than their smartphone. And if you are one of those person, you can just configure the camera easily, put it in some of the semi-auto or fully auto mode, and you can take photo very easily. You can also just use the touch screen instead of the EVF, even though I feel like everyone should really use the EVF a little bit more on this camera, because the EVF, the quality of the EVF is actually very good compared to the other camera in this class. And then the LCD screen can also be flipped out, so that you can flip out like this and also turn it upside down like this, and then you can use it to do some selfie, or you can use it for vlogging. And one very nice thing is that as soon as you flip the LCD screen by 180 degrees, the camera will just lock all the rear button controls. That is to avoid you changing any of the camera settings by mistake. The camera also has a microphone port as well as USB and HDMI port on the side of this camera here, and that actually make it a very good camera for vlogging. But there is one little problem, because when you flip the screen down like this, you notice that the tripod mount is right here, which is like just in the middle of the screen, so you cannot really attach any tripod, or otherwise the tripod will be, even if you can mount it here, it will be right at the center of the screen. The good news is there are already some third-party accessory manufacturer. They already created some L bracket which go all the way up to here, and they shift the tripod mount to the side here, so you can still flip the screen down and attach a little tripod to the side of the camera, so that you can hold it like this with the tripod attached to the side. So that would make this Nikon Z50 pretty much the perfect lightweight camera for people who want to do a bit of vlogging. If you compare this camera with the full-frame Nikon Z6 and Z7, apart from the sensor being smaller, they are actually very similar. The design, the build quality, the feature is very similar. There is one thing though that is missing from the Nikon Z50, that is the in-body image stabilizer. I guess Nikon probably just want to make the camera as small and lightweight as possible, so the camera actually does not have the in-body image stabilizer built in. Instead, they make the two kit lens, they are both VR, so they have the optical image stabilizer on both of the kit lens. If you are just shooting with these two kit lenses, then probably doesn't make any difference at all. And I have tried to take some photo at pretty slow shutter speed using this 16-50 kit lens, and the result was pretty good. I got pretty high success rate at getting sharp photo even when I dropped the shutter speed to pretty slow speed. But if you really want to have the in-body image stabilizer so that you can stabilize some of the Nikon prime lens or some other lenses that doesn't have VR, you probably have to go for the full frame Nikon Z6 or Z7. Fortunately, the in-body image stabilizer is pretty much the only major thing that is missing from the Nikon Z50. All the other excellent design and feature that is available on the Nikon Z6 and Nikon Z7, you can pretty much find them all on the Nikon Z50. And then there are some new feature on the Z50 that is not even available on the Z6 and Z7. For example, if you look at the rear of the camera, at the side of the LCD screen, for most camera, this area is a wasted area, so this area is not part of the screen, and then there's nothing you can do with it. And Nikon just got a very clever idea this time, and they put this free touch sensitive button on the edge of the LCD screen here, so because otherwise this area is just a waste area. Overall, I think the Nikon Z50 is a very well designed product. If you are a professional photographer, you can pick up this camera and configure it to pretty much the same way as your professional camera. Or if you are a complete beginner, you can still pick up this camera, just set it to the auto mode, and then the camera will take care of most of the settings for you, so you can still take some very nice photo or video very easily. And the ergonomic, the design and build quality of this camera is definitely one of the best in the class. Now let's go back and talk about something that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. I remember I first heard of the rumor that Nikon maybe bring out some APS-C mirrorless camera. That was at the beginning of the year when I was at a camera event. My immediate reaction was, no way, Nikon is not going to do that. That is such a stupid idea, because you are already one of the last camera manufacturer to start making large sensor mirrorless camera, so you're already kind of like behind everyone else, and you still got a lot of lenses you have to make. You still have to design and make a pro body in the future. That means you need to spend a lot of time, a lot of R&D into your full frame mirrorless camera system. And why would you want to introduce another product lineup? Because that means you are going to take away a lot of your R&D resources and put it into your APS-C mirrorless market. And I also feel that in the future, the APS-C mirrorless camera market will be getting smaller and smaller as the full frame camera price become lower and lower. More and more people will go to full frame. So why would Nikon now start create a brand new APS-C mirrorless camera lineup? That just seems completely crazy to me. But now, after using this camera for quite a while, I think I was really wrong about it. And there are two main reasons why I said it. First, the APS-C camera market, yes, I still think in the long term, the APS-C market will be smaller and smaller, and full frame will be bigger and bigger. But right now, it is still a very important market, and you can see that Fuji and Sony, they still sell a lot of APS-C mirrorless camera. And also the DSLR market is definitely shrinking every year. So if Nikon doesn't release a APS-C mirrorless camera, so that means they completely have a big gap in their product lineup, and a lot of their existing DSLR user, they may not be able to afford a full frame mirrorless camera, or they may not want to go full frame, and that means they will just go to another brand. So with the release of this Nikon Z50 and also other APS-C mirrorless camera in the future, that means Nikon is not giving up this still reasonably large market that they can now compete with the other manufacturer. And not only that, it also completely changed their market position. If you are currently a Nikon APS-C DSLR shooter and thinking of moving to mirrorless camera, I think it just makes a lot of sense for you to just grab one of this Nikon Z50 instead of going to another brand, because now you can reuse all your lenses just using the FTZ adapter. And also in the future, one day, if you want to move to a full frame mirrorless camera, you can easily do that as well, because Nikon's Z50 or APS-C mirrorless camera is sharing the same lens mount as their full frame body, while some other manufacturer like Canon, they use two different mount system using USA-IM and USA-R. So that wouldn't allow you to seamlessly upgrade or migrate from one to the other. There are a lot of Nikon APS-C DSLR users out there. It really actually make a lot of sense for Nikon to create a new APS-C mirrors lineup and with a camera like this Z50, and I was just completely wrong about my initial reaction because it totally makes sense. And second thing I want to talk about is when Nikon announced and released the Z6 and Z7, they put a lot of emphasis about how large, how big the Z mount is and how good it is, allow them to create some really fast lens. And then they announced a bunch of 1.8 lenses instead of the faster 1.4 or 1.2 or even 0.95. So I was like not really sure why Nikon did that, because isn't that you say you create a large mount, you should just create some fast lens? And now I think I understand why Nikon did that, because they probably already had a plan that they will be releasing the APS-C mirrorless camera in a year time, because they must have already developing it when they announced the Nikon Z6 and Z7. So if they release a bunch of really large 1.4 or 1.2 prime lenses that a lot of people would be really happy to buy, but those lenses would be way too big and also way too expensive for the APS-C mirrorless camera user. So if you buy a small camera like this one, you probably wouldn't be buying a say 51.2 prime lens, which is so big and so expensive and looks really ridiculous when you put it onto a small camera like this, while those 1.8 lenses are a lot more matched to both the size, the weight, and also the price for the Nikon APS-C camera user. So I believe that's the reason why Nikon create a bunch of 1.8 prime lenses first instead of any of the faster 1.2 lenses, because they want to be able to allow the Z50 user to have some good prime lens to go with this camera. Okay, I think I probably talked too much off-topic stuff. And what do you guys think about this Z50? I really quite like it and really changed my mind about the Nikon APS-C mirrorless camera after using it to shoot a lot of video and photos in the last week or so. What do you guys think about it? Feel free to drop a comment below, let me know, and thank you very much for watching this video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and I'll see you in my next video.